Welcome everybody. It seems that I have a very loud voice right now. I will be your narrator for the next hour or so of this shared dream we'll be having. Imagine you're in a place where you're at the center of creation. This is a place where your thoughts and your feelings are instantly manifest in the world around you. Awareness is the key to unlocking the full potential of this incredible state of mind. In this talk, I'm going to be going over the 7 things you need to know in order to have these types of experiences, particularly lucid dream experiences. It's about an hour-long talk, and in it I'm going to be covering some basic information. I'll talk a little bit about me and my journey of how I got here. And I'll cover the 7 things which are kind of the most important things I think that everyone needs to know in order to be successful at this, having these experiences. I'll talk about techniques that you can use, a specific technique you can start using, and then we'll taper off into some side topics like sleep paralysis and how it relates to the big picture here, with us being here and how it relates to the world and how it can help us heal the world. Lucid dreaming is specifically dreaming when you know that you're dreaming. So it's defined as the awareness of the dream while you're in it. It doesn't mean that you have to have control. Control is a separate topic, and vividness is a separate topic. You can have a vivid dream and it's not lucid, and you can have a lucid dream further away. Oh, closer. This is supposed to be louder? That sounds incredibly loud in my own mind. Okay. So, okay, yes. Does this sound okay to everybody? Okay. How many people here have had a lucid dream experience? By a show of hands. Okay, great. Yeah, some of you should come up here and, and share. How many people have had more than 10 lucid dreams? Okay, yeah, this is a pretty advanced crowd. How many have had more than like 30 lucid dreams? Okay, it's good to see. More time for it. How many people are wondering if you're dreaming right now? Okay, it's good. It's good to have that kind of attitude at events like this. And how many people are interested in learning more about lucid dreaming here? Okay, that's what I was hoping to see. Otherwise, I'm not sure why you'd be here. But I do want you to take a moment and look around at the people here, all of which have raised their hand for saying that they're interested in this topic. If you see any of these people at any time in the festival, lucid dreaming is a great thing to chat about. Whenever I meet people and talk to people about it, everyone has their stories to tell about it, and everyone's at a certain place with it. So I encourage you each to connect with people on that topic, and preferably right when this talk ends, we're going to move towards the back, and I encourage you to speak to somebody new or just share something that you've learned and ask somebody about what they're learning about lucid dreaming right now. People are welcome to chime in while I'm going if somebody has a question or if there's something somebody wants to add or if I've missed something blatantly obvious. But if you have any big questions that feel off topic, just wait until the end, and there should be a 15-minute period at the end where we're just going to kind of go wherever it needs to go. Dreams are like magical experiences, and they allow us to tap into that magic. It's almost like we have a treasure chest at the foot of our bed. And if we have a dream practice, we get access to this treasure chest and all of the gifts and the wonderful experiences that offers us in our lives. An opportunity for self-reflection and growth. So when you're able to have a dream practice, you get access to this amazing treasure chest. And through this talk, we'll be covering a lot of information that will give us access to this specific treasure chest. And at the end, it has treasure for everyone here who wishes to partake in it. So at the end, we'll be able to unlock this treasure chest and see what wonders are within it. About that magic, one amazing thing about dreaming is that it is a rare opportunity that we do get to tap into magic in our lives. Oftentimes, the world seems to put us in this direction where we have to be focused and stay on track and, obey traffic lights. But dreams are this opportunity. It's like a pure kind of magic that we have access to. And part of a dream practice is allowing enchantment in your life and in your dreams, because that also unlocks them in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise. And that's how I've experienced it in my life. I started lucid dreaming around 1999. I still remember the first time I heard about lucid dreaming. I was fascinated in the first moments of it. I was already having kind of vivid experiences, just normal vivid dreams and nightmares, and what were called grief mares, which are more like emotionally heavy dreams. And that's where a lot of people start. A lot of the best dreamers I know all have faced challenges with their dream content, like it's scary or there's something happening and it's really profound and unavoidable. So it's a good place to start. If you're having bad dreams, it's a gateway into incredible dream experiences. And a lot of people who've gone through a lot of lucid experiences start to envy people who talk about nightmares and like vivid dream content that stands out and is unavoidable. You have to face this. So I was experiencing that a lot. And in that time in my life, I was extremely introverted and quiet and shut down. And what lucid dreaming did for me is it was extremely empowering. It unlocked something within me that was so important for my own personal development. And it came down to feeling like I was in control of that part of my life. And creative control too, where I could bend the rules a little bit. So it was extremely important in my life, and that's why early on I became very dedicated to this path. I went into film school, I did a documentary that's called Explorers of the Lucid Dream World. That's on YouTube, you can search for it. It's like a 12-minute documentary. And from there, I just thought, I'm gonna keep sharing this information. I wanna tell people about it. I think society has has a lot, we don't talk about it enough. And so I kept on the path, and eventually, I want to kind of bring in more of my story. I want to make sure I share some actual dreams, because it helps it make it real. And so I had profound personal dreams early on, and then at one point, one of the great things about lucid dreaming in particular is you can really face what's going on with awareness. And as I mentioned, I was very introverted. I had trouble, like public speaking was quite challenging for a lot of people when they're young. But so when I got lucid for a period of time, I had one dream, I had many dreams that were like this actually. I became lucid through a situation in which I was trying to take off sunglasses and they stayed on my face. So I was like, how come they're not coming off? And so that clued me in, and I thought, okay, this is a dream. And I was in a situation, I walked into another room, I was like in a school type of area, and I could see an auditorium, and people were kind of coming into the auditorium, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna go on stage. That's the place that I wanna be in my lucid dream. So I walked up to the stage, not knowing what I'm gonna say, and I walked on the stage, and I stood in front of everybody, and I was still thinking about what I was gonna say, and I noticed that I was drifting a little bit, which sometimes you get that in dreams where you can kind of drift, or it feels like you're floating a little bit. And then I thought, oh, I know what I'm gonna say. So I said, in life, we walk. We walk here, we walk there, but every so often, we skate. And I started like skating around, skating around the stage, and then I woke up shortly after that. I think I said one more sentence. I was like, the human body is an incredible machine, and on the word machine, I kind of like woke up into my real life, or into my bed, and that was a really important dream for me, because it's like able to stand up on stage and like confront a fearful situation, but feel perfectly safe, and convert it into like an exhilaration. And so that led me to continue to do presentations on lucid dreaming, and eventually make a curriculum that's more like about teaching lucid dreaming. So that was a shift over a period of time. And around 2012 is when the Lucidity Festival was starting. So I got involved with this because I thought this is the best place to talk about lucid dreaming, for a lot of reasons, but I thought, okay, now I'm dedicated to this festival to do lucid dream talks. And I did for 4 years. I did the first 4 years. But as I'll get into a little bit, there's an ideal age range for lucid dreaming, and I was starting to get older and it was getting less interested in it. So I was starting to drift away from lucid dreaming. But it'd be more accurate to say that my dreaming life was changing, and it was less about studying that content and more about how do I use the same practices in my waking life. So from there, I started an art and spiritual path. And I think this is one of the directions that lucid dreams can take you, which is we all can learn things from our lucid dreams, and then from there we can take it in a new direction. And what I discovered was that tarot cards are an ideal direction for, after studying lucid dreaming, you can now use tarot cards as dream content to analyze your life or to have a shared conversation with another person. So I became completely fascinated with tarot cards, and then started an art and spiritual path based on my experience with particularly the major arcana of the tarot, which is the 22 spiritual cards that are a beautiful path, just phenomenal. So I've been really happy about that, and it's kind of transformed my experience of lucid dreaming, because everything I learned is still very valuable, but lucid dreaming is just a part of an overall path and an overall way I can be. And in this particular spiritual path, the second archetype is the High Priestess, and it's an ideal archetype for doing this type of self-work, for turning inward, for doing meditation, for practicing paying attention to dreams, and doing dream practices. And just to complete that, in the past I built a website on lucid dreaming, and now I'm building a website that teaches the spiritual path, or at least guides people on the spiritual path. And on that website, I'm moving all the dream content to, and that the course will be there, particularly for people who are on the second archetype, which is the High Priestess archetype. Okay, so first, before I get to the 7 things, I would like to set expectations. This audience seems to be pretty experienced, so I think we have a good range of experiences here. But there is an ideal age range, which I was saying, and I think I adjusted the ages, but 18 to 36, teenagers are ideal. If you have teenagers in your life, this is the time to be talking about it, telling them about it, because they're primed to have like phenomenal dreams, and particularly if they can bring that awareness into it, it can be transformative for them. So a big takeaway from this is everything you're learning here, if you have a teenager or someone younger in your life, this is where you should be directing your attention to, because this is where it's really valuable to them, and it's still valuable to older people too. If you're coming at it at an older age, there's still a lot there to get from dream experiences. But I just wanted to set that intention, and how I would grade an advanced lucid dreamer is if you're having a lucid dream once a month, that's advanced. Just to set an expectation here, because you're probably making good progress. Like things are happening, and you're figuring things out, and you're having these experiences that are kind of building on each other. So I also it's not like the holodeck. You kind of instead of thinking like, when you first hear about lucid dreaming, it sounds like you can just like walk into this dream state, and because you're aware, you can just, you know, manipulate all the parts and have this holodeck Star Trek kind of experience. But you can, I think letting go of that is helpful, because just allowing the dreams to be what they are, and then showing up at your highest level of awareness, and the dreams has its own personality. So it's, I think, honoring that personality and allowing those dreams to be unique, and coming at it from that angle can be really helpful in setting the expectations, and recognizing that it's a lifelong journey. So there's no rush to get to your next lucid dream. It's like knowing that it's going to come and it'll be different each time, I think allows it to be just like a better experience overall. So now I'm going to go into the 7 things you need to know. I'll try to move through them kind of quickly, because I can get, you know, each one of these things you can talk for a long time, and I'm going to go into each one, but yeah, so let's see, let's start with the concept of you need to know when you're dreaming. A lot of people said that they have lucid dreams, so I'll move through this quickly, but it's really good to see this if you haven't seen this chart. This is a 24-hour cycle of a human body, a circadian rhythm, and the teal chunks in it are REM periods. So that's when you're dreaming. That's prime dream time, and the primest prime of the dream time prime is the last one, which is like right before you wake up. So if you're able, you know, that's when you're really trying to get lucid, is this last one, which leads to the second thing you need to know, which is if you're trying to have lucid dreams, pretty much every technique involves something called wake back to bed. Wake back to bed is you set an alarm clock about 2 hours before you normally need to wake up, and you wake yourself up, you try to recall a dream, that doesn't matter as much, but you're going back to sleep knowing that you're entering like a prime dream time. And so at that time you can do different types of practices. You can do meditation, you can do like mnemonic techniques where you think about your last lucid dream, or you think about what you would do, and then just allow it to be what it is, and don't be too attached, because if you do wake back to bed, it's not always going to work, but it's the standard practice. So if you want to have lucid dreams, set once a week or twice a week where you do a wake back to bed, and you'll make progress. Even if you don't remember a lot of dreams, it's a way to kind of enhance your dreaming overall. The third thing you need to know is a way to record your experiences. And this is most commonly a dream journal, but you can just do an audio recording. But the key to this is the recording part, not the reading later. So you can let go of this idea that you're writing it because you're keeping a journal and you might read it later. That's not the important part. The important part is actually just to pick up a pen or a pencil and just write down what happened, or at least write down a title. Because what that does is it reinforces the whole in the mechanism in your mind. It tells your mind that this is something important, this is something that needs to make like a linear sense, like a sentence. Because, you know, as we've all experienced, dreams can be very kind of like hard to describe. But as you start to write dreams, you get to be able to bring them, make them more clear when you're having them. The dreams become more vivid in the future. And the other part about it is sharing with other people. Like, if you write it down, like a sentence, then later on you're able to just read the sentence and you can remember to tell somebody. I think everyone's probably had that experience where you have a dream and you can't remember it later, even though it was phenomenal. So the next part is to be able to tell at any moment if you're dreaming or not, or if you just happen to be at a festival. So is anybody here able to prove that you're awake or dreaming right now? You can just yell it out, or jump. That's one of the good ones, because testing gravity, it can be a little bit disruptive if you just start doing this. But it works. The hand one's good too. Yeah. I think, what's that?
Light switch or
A clock? Okay. The hand one, this first, is popularized by Carlos Castaneda. And it's pretty reliable, although sometimes it won't work because your hand can look normal.
The hand's what brought me into a lucid dream once.
Okay.
Yeah, like I saw my hand and then I woke up in the dream.
Okay, nice. Yeah, lots of the hand one has been very successful for a lot of people, and like Carlos Castaneda was really big on it and distributed to society. It's one that like society knows because of his writings. Okay. He said make your fingers do something weird. I've heard the one where you try to pull your finger, and in some dreams that your finger will stretch, but it won't do that in real life. So that one. If your finger stretches, then you can. It works. And the clock one touches on what I'm going to go into next. But is there anyone else who wants to test reality or to like challenge the state of consciousness? Actually, got the guy in the back.
Bouncing a red ball.
Bouncing a red ball.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
seeing a red ball within you don't tend to notice that day to day.
Like if it bounces differently.
Or just a ball appearing within the dream out of nowhere.
A ball has appeared. Are you dreaming or are you awake? Well, there are stuff like that where you're testing reality in different ways, and being creative with it can work, but sometimes it doesn't. So that's where it gets tricky. Did you say something? It is a common phenomenon to feel like he said you can't run, or when you, especially if you try to run away from something, probably people have that experience, you're like, I'm trying to get away. But you can also run in dreams sometimes. Like, especially if you're like, there's certain situations where you can, but if it is true that if you're in a situation where you can't run, you probably will be in a dream. But you still might want to check, because there could be other reasons. There's someone in the back.
Usually reading or interacting with my phone in a dream doesn't make sense.
Okay, yes. Yeah, that one goes into the clock one. Is the #1 best reality test. It's called text rereading, and based on the research of the Lucidity Institute and Dr. Stephen LaBerge, they recommend this reality test as the most effective out of all of the tests you can do. Because we want to do a test that's reliable, it's fast, and can get you super lucid. Because when you, like, it's not questionable, because you can, other tests you might, if your hand does something weird, you might be like, well, maybe I'm on pain medicine, or maybe I'm in a costume. You know, you can kind of justify things. But the text rereading, and as well as the clock one, is very good, because when you see text change, so how you do this reality test is you find text or a clock, and you read it, and then you look away from it, and then you reread it. This could be an example, so it doesn't have to be too long. If you're in a dream and you read this and you look away and you reread it, it'll be different. 98% of the time, it's a really high percentage. And so it's a really reliable one out of all of the ones that they tested. And so that's a great one to go with. The next one, the one that I've done a lot and has got me lucid a lot, that one takes a little bit of brain power and a little disruptive. So I like the nose pinching technique. So what happens is, if you're walking along and you see something dreamlike, you pinch your nose and try to breathe in. Because if you're awake, you cannot, because you're pinching your nose. But if you're dreaming, you're pinching your dream nose, and you can breathe in through your nose. So that's a test that's really easy to do and can get you super lucid, because if you plug your nose and you can breathe in, it's like there's no doubt. You're like, oh, okay, I know for certain right now this is a dream. And that's ultimately, like, reality tests can slingshot you into like a high level of awareness because of that, when you're like, okay, I'm surprised because this looks extremely phenomenally real. But it turns out it's a dream, so let's take it to another level. There's some others, like the gravity one. That one's good, like you can do this. And it's usually pretty successful. The light switch one, But the key to all of these, once you choose one, and I recommend you choose one if you don't have one, is to authentically do it. Today, we're at a festival. So I'd like to encourage everyone to play a game while we're here. This game is about every time you notice something dreamlike, you do a reality test. Festivals are ideal for that because you have the space for it. And one way we can make it a little bit more interactive is that if everyone here is playing that game, then whenever something dreamlike happens, we can do like a nonverbal cue to each other. Like, I think this is a good one. Like, I'm remembering, or like, you know, the mind. So with people here, or even people who aren't here, you could play the game with, I don't think, I don't think they'll mind. But whenever something dreamlike happens, just do the reality test, and if there's somebody around, do this to kind of like remembering to do this, because this is the opportunity to do it. You might get overwhelmed because festivals are definitely full of dream content. So you should have many opportunities to do reality tests here, and maybe even one or two during this talk. So yeah, let's play the reality testing game. Because authenticity on doing the reality test is the key. Reality tests are useless if you just know how to do them, but you never do them when you're awake. So you have to do them when you're awake in order to do them in your dreams. That's a big, really important part. The fifth thing you need to understand is how short-term memory affects dreams. When you're dreaming and you're asleep, you only have access to your short-term memory in the way of storage. And this affects the dream in two ways. One is that when you do get lucid, if you do a reality test and it turns out that you are dreaming, then all you have to work with is your short-term memory. So you have about a minute to do something awesome, and then you kind of need to wake up, otherwise you're not going to remember it. And so, like many people have probably had the experience where you know, you don't remember, so you wouldn't remember having the experience, but you could fall into a deep sleep after a REM period. So this idea, you have to preload, like when I get lucid, I want to do something awesome, and then I got to wake up and recall it. Because sometimes the moment you get lucid is the most interesting and awesome part. And then it can kind of degrade from there to a degree. But that's really important. I think you have about a minute, and all of these rules are exceptions. I heard people talk about having longer dreams, and there's all kinds of stuff with the brain that's like there's no specific rule, but it's good to think you have a minute, because that's the standard amount of time for short-term memory. The other reason this is really important to understand is that anytime you wake up from a REM sleep period, what you're doing is you're taking the memories from your short-term memory, which are the dreams, and you're converting them into long-term memory so that you can remember what happened. So that's part of the dream recall process. And also a reason why a lot of people don't remember their dreams is because if you wake up and you immediately start going forward with your day, you're not going to develop much of a dream practice, because the short-term memory clears itself out regularly, so you don't really get to remember those dream experiences. So that's another reason why the dream practice in the morning is really important, because you're really training your brain to remember the dreams and to store them in your long-term memory. The sixth thing that you need to know is to predetermine what you want to do the next time you become lucid. Now that you are learning all of this stuff, or now that you know it's very likely you will get lucid in the future, who knows when exactly, it's good to have a goal. And that's something to contemplate, but you should have something, like you should be able to say at the bottom of this, it says, the next time I get lucid, I will blank, then wake up and recall it. So that's how a predetermined dream goal should be, because it's built in that, the short-term memory, so you're trying to really remember the awesome part. And if you don't know what to do, if nothing comes to mind, flying is just the default, most fun one. It's very it feels good, it's very engaging, it's visual, and it's usually successful. I know that some people have trouble getting in the air, me too, there's flying techniques, but all of that is pretty fun to play with, and very achievable. So if you don't know what to do, flying is a great one. But other than that, you're trying to keep it simple. I mean, do whatever you want to do, really, and you'll find out what does work and what doesn't work. But for the most part, your goals ideally would just be about how you're showing up and what you're bringing to the dream. What kind of emotions, or what kind of, like, saying statements like, I would like to be in the presence of the divine, or I would like to be in the presence of healing. Those are really good predetermined goals because they're vague enough that let the dream tell the story. Don't try to take the dream and make it do something. I mean, do it if you want, like, see what happens, but it's the dream has its own personality, and it's best to work with it. So the last thing out of the 7 things you need to know is how to stabilize a dream. It's very common for people who first get lucid is that they wake up, and it kind of goes like this, oh, this is a dream? That must mean I'm like laying in bed, or my body's somewhere else, and if my body is somewhere else, then so this is not my body right now, and it becomes very mental, and the problem with that is the dream world requires you to stay engaged with it. That means touching, moving, seeing, visually, being engaged with the dream world, otherwise it will fade away. So the technique that's the most common for dream stabilization, and you can do this the moment you get lucid, is you rub your hands together. And the reason it works so well is because you're rubbing your dream hands together. So you're kind of reinforcing your dream body and the dream content, and you're giving your brain something to latch onto while you're kind of getting your bearings, and taking in just how counterintuitive it feels like to look at a world that's completely vivid, but is in a dream state. If the dream continues to fade, or you're in a situation and it's fading fast, another technique is to do spinning, which looks like this. It works for the same reason. It engages your dream body, and it pulls you back in. Usually you end up in a different place. Like it will kind of ruin the content, but if it's already turning white, like some people, like it turns white as you're waking up, or black, whichever, and just start spinning if you can, and it can sometimes pull you back into it. So it's a good one to know about, and can keep you in the dream and to have an experience. So now that you have all this information, you can actually build a dream practice for yourself. I have a handout which pretty much just lays out the wake back to bed process, which can be helpful just having by your bed. It's hard to see on the screen, so I apologize. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand out a sign-up sheet, and anybody who fills out their name on the sign-up sheet, I will send a copy of this sheet, and it's something you can have by your bed. It puts in times, and you can change the times, but it kind of tells you what you should be preparing for and like what helps. So that's, this will also be in the back towards the end, but I'm just going to hand this out. I heard that I shouldn't take the phone. But a dream practice often, like a lifelong dream practice or a dream practice in your life, often looks like choosing days of the week or days of the month to make space for it, and trying different things when you wake up in the middle of the night, or wake up like 4 in the morning, or whenever, 5 or 6 in the morning, and then trying different things. And there are dream supplements you can take that have different levels of effectiveness, but there are ways to boost the experience. And so one topic I want to go into is called sleep paralysis. How many people here have had an experience of sleep paralysis? Okay, yeah. It's relatively common, but I know a lot of people, when they have the experience, it can feel very isolating, because usually the people in your immediate life don't know what it is, And so they can, you can feel like you know, you're trying to figure out what it is, but you can't tell what it is. But sleep paralysis is an experience when your body wakes up, or your body stays asleep and your mind is waking up. So whenever you go into REM sleep, your body goes into paralysis. And so I was wondering if anybody notices anything dreamlike that might be happening. And it's an opportunity to do a reality test, or like, if anybody remembers that part. But so the sleep paralysis part. Okay, so there's two parts about it, really. First of all, the first thing you need to know is that you're safe. So if you're having sleep paralysis, you should be able to identify it. And what the experience is you can't move and you're in bed. And it can be dreamlike. Usually there's an actual story happening. Like there's a person by the bed and they might be causing the paralysis in your story. And it can be very scary. So it feeds on fear. So that's why the key to it is to identify when it's happening and relax. To say, I am safe and I can let go. Because it's the fear and the tensing that strengthen the paralysis part of it. So a lot of people, it's counterintuitive because most people try to push their way out. But if you need to get out of it and you're afraid and you don't want to play the game that it's playing, then relax and let go and that's the way to release the paralysis. But if you've had enough of those experiences and you recognize it and you feel safe with it, it can be an awesome opportunity to go directly into a dream from it. And also, just the feeling itself is somewhat exhilarating if you're not afraid. So that's the key element, because if you're afraid, then it's a different vibe. But I think that sleep paralysis is an exhilarating experience that then you can go into a dream from it, and a particular lucid dream, because you're conscious and awake from it. And I think I need an opportunity to share more, just a couple more dreams. And I'm not sure about time. This talk ended at 11:30. Okay, so actually it looks like we have a lot of time. Okay. Yeah, that's a whole lot of time. But maybe we can open it up too, and if people want to share about different experiences. But I do want to share a dream that came to mind. Wait, let me see if I wrote it down. Let's see which one I was going to say right here. Oh, okay. This is better. So that's a good part about writing stuff down, is to be able to recall it fast. It's like this. I wanted to give a lucid dream experience from sleep paralysis. This is a lucid dream I had that is titled Unicorn Theory. And what happened is I got lucid. I don't actually remember how I got lucid now that I'm thinking about it, but I was in this situation where I was in like an office building, and I was walking around the office building, and I noticed people were working on stuff, and I was trying to see what they're working on, and they were very like mysterious about it, and they were getting suspicious about me. And I went into one room, and there was like, on the screen it said Unicorn Theory. And when I came in, they were like upset that I was in there and started like pushing me out. But I was lucid, so I was like, okay, don't fight with dream characters, because that just makes them fight harder. But it was this situation where they really were being impending or like aggressive towards me. And so I started to retreat, run away from them, and then I started to go into a sleep paralysis experience. And it was like this confusing, blurring situation where I was like trying to get away from them, and I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. And I had a sense that I was in my bed, and I couldn't move, and my girlfriend at the time was next to me. So I called out to her, and I was like, Amy, I'm having a sleep paralysis experience today. I need your help right now. And she leaned over me and touched her finger on my third eye, and then let go. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, Unicorn Theory. It's like the third eye. like a unicorn. And I had this like revelation about unicorn theory all of a sudden. And I relaxed, and then I woke up because I was able to relax and let it go. And when I woke up, I was by myself. So that was another part where I was like, wow, that, you know, just to be able to have like that, you know, like the vividness, and then wake up and everything's calm and quiet and I'm completely alone. So I'm sure like lots of people had like crazy sleep paralysis and lucid dream mixtures of stuff, but that's a fun one. I've like thinking about like dream characters working on something called unicorn theory. No, I can talk about that, but would you like to share something about it? Yes. Reoccurring dreams are another beautiful gift if you have them, because this is reoccurring content, so your brain is almost building a whole world around it. And it's a psychological concept that your mind is working on, meaning it's usually rooted in something that you don't have the answer for. And that's why when you go to sleep, your brain's like, well, what should I think about? I was like, and the brain thinks, we should probably work out that one thing I don't know the answer to yet. So recurring dreams are definitely a gift. So if you hear somebody that has them, there's something deep in it, and you can work your way through it. Unfortunately, once you do work it out, they do kind of stop, which is sad. Yes. Yeah, and one of the examples I like to tell is I was living in a place, and I kept having this dream of a burglar coming in, like coming through the door or whatever situation, and it kept happening, and then I thought, okay, what is this dream asking me, and how do I solve this dilemma? And basically, that's a very simple dream. I know lots of people have. When people tell me theirs, I'm like, I have no idea what that is. But this one's so simple, you can tell that the dream is like, what are you going to do if somebody breaks into your house? Like sometimes it can be that simple. And I didn't quite have an answer for that. I was like, well, I don't know, I'll run away or something. But all I had to do is get a baseball bat, put it by my bed, and I stopped having that dream. Yeah. Okay, yeah. There's only a little bit left, so we'll get to this part too, because there's still a treasure chest of dreams awaiting. It does touch on another topic though, and that's there's inherent wisdom in the dream world, and particularly it's in the lucid dream state, because in the lucid dream state you're engaging in the dream world with your full consciousness and your awareness of what's happening. So you're able to make better decisions, and you're able to act from a place of being safe and empowered and engage on a whole new level. And so early on I was saying like a lot of people become really great dreamers because of nightmares and scary situations and things that are uncomfortable. So this is a very common topic when people talk about their dreams, and it's secretly a gift. I know people who are experiencing it usually don't say it, think of it that way, but one of the biggest inherent wisdoms that's built into the dream state is how to deal with fear, and nightmares in particular. You can't really do it if you're not lucid, because if you believe there's a person chasing you, then you should probably do whatever you need to do to survive that situation, of course. But if you're able to come from it from a place of being aware that it's a dream, then you have this opportunity to convert, to actually have the experience of feeling fear that feels real, I'm afraid, and then converting it and be like, okay, there's nothing to be afraid of. I can stand in the face of this and deal with it on a different level now. And so one simple way of thinking it is like converting fear into exhilaration, because you still have that energy. The energy is still charged, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but that energy source, once it's converted into exhilaration, is great, because now you can use it in a much more productive way, an empowering way. And if that means allowing the nightmare situation, character, or being to attack you or to do the thing that it wants to do, and just allow it to do that, and that's the way you can get there, then that might have to be the step that you take. But one of the ways it teaches this is most of us, even when lucid, if we're approached by something that is menacing or disturbing, the first thought is like, okay, well, let's just remove that. And because I'm lucid, I should have that power. And in some situations you do, but it doesn't create the most phenomenal experience. It's almost like if you use force on it, for example, you say like, I'm gonna push it away with my force. Well, then you're pushing force into the dream, and so what you're gonna have is an experience of this like force, and most likely it's gonna push back. So you can get this like battling a dream character that you don't need to battle it. So it's amazing, it has this inherent wisdom built in. Like, we should all come to this conclusion through our dreams that when we show up and we face whatever it is, it's really this internal, how you position yourself, your emotional state and your way of being, and that's how you manipulate the dream and you create good experiences in the big picture. And speaking of big picture, this festival has the theme of the Great Synthesis, which is really about recognizing us as a whole and as an individual. Like, as we build up our own ability to do things in the world, we're all coming together at the same time and building something big together. And a dream practice is really great for this, because you're able to tune yourself up to be able to tap into what's really important for yourself, so that you can heal yourself and then show up in the world as a more complete being and work together with other people who have done the work and are able to show up in the same way. So there's going to be a discussion panel here Saturday at 2 p.m. and which we will be discussing this very topic along with a lot of other everything lucid dreaming, I believe, but we're going to hover around this idea about like, why is this so important and how can this be used in our world for our own personal healing, but also the healing of our community and our world as a whole. And I shared early on like my own experience about like healing myself and then going through learning the wisdom of lucid dreaming and then building something bigger, making artwork and embodying archetypes and taking it to a level that I think is really valuable for myself and can be valuable for other people who go through this experience and personal development. So now we've covered a lot of information, and metaphorically we have this treasure chest here, which we can now unlock and share the treasure within for everyone to experience. Well, aha! This is what was supposed to be in there. A whole new perspective on my existence that I found from my dream content, as well as some more universal human experience symbols. These are the Lucidity Mythos cards, and I would like to offer everyone here one of them to take with you. And you can treat it as a kind of like a dream imagery, if you will. And so I guess we can put them here. Okay, I think you want to hand them out? Okay. Another way you can treat these cards is similar to how you would treat dream imagery, in that it has a question built into it. And so every card is kind of asking you something. And then how you answer that is kind of what you get from the card. And that's also a standard way you can do some of your own dream recall, like I mentioned before. What is this experience asking of me or from me? So now we can move on to questions, and if people want to share about their experiences or anything like that. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Lucid. He asked the difference between a vivid dream and a lucid dream. A lucid dream is specifically the awareness that you're dreaming. So that as soon as you know that it's a dream, that's lucid. The vividness doesn't matter and the control doesn't matter. It's just awareness. And then the vivid part is a vivid dream means it's clear, and that what's happening is like, you can really tell what's happening. So both of them are a scale though. I mean, you can say the vividness, there's a scale of vividness. And lucidity, you would think is binary, like I'm not lucid or I am lucid, and to a degree that's true. But there is like a semi-lucid state, so it has, and you can say I'm very lucid, or you can say then I became lucid, but then I kept doing the same thing I was doing, so was I really that lucid? So it's also a scale thing, but it's there's a moment where you would say I am aware or I'm not aware, and that's like that's the distinguishing feature. Wait. Yes. Yeah, she was asking about, she feels like she's in a dream, but she doesn't necessarily say like I am in a dream. So that's when you get into semi-lucid. So there's a possibility you can get lucid and then do stuff, and then time goes on, and now you're here in the timeline, and you've kind of forgotten the whole part that you got lucid, but you have this lucid charge, meaning like you're doing something because of a while ago you got lucid and you figured out. Even flying, like you can be flying along in a dream and then kind of forget it's a dream, and then when you recall the dream, you may not remember how it started, so you don't have the moment you got lucid. So that entire category you just put under semi-lucid. If you're flying, you're semi-lucid. But if you're flying and you're like, oh wow, this is an awesome dream, then you can say I'm lucid. But if you're flying along and like an airplane comes and you're like, oh, I better dodge the airplane, and now you're having a whole airplane dream that, as if you believe it's like you're really, you have a jetpack on or something, and then you're back in the dream content, then you fall back into like non-lucid, or you can still be semi-lucid. So that's how you deal with it. You can say, I had a semi-lucid dream. Yeah. She asks, can you be lucid in a state that's similar to sleep paralysis, but you're not paralyzed? It does get into a gray area and kind of like how you would define it to a degree. But specifically, lucid dreams happen in a measurable state called REM sleep. So if you're not in REM sleep, then it's technically not lucid. So we couldn't actually be lucid right now. Well, yeah. So you couldn't use the term lucid if you know you're awake, or like if you're laying in bed and you have a vision or like an image, and but you're not asleep, then it's technically not lucid. Okay. Then it really just comes down to if you're in REM sleep, and if you say you are in REM sleep, then you can say yes. It's a good question. He asked about how do you gain control, because mainly what I've been talking about is awareness. I think that's part of the game, as in, it's kind of up to you, and the dreams, because the dream has its own personality, you're really dealing with your own subconscious and psyche in that way. So there's a whole talk that I can do that's about advanced lucid dreaming, which is what techniques can you use in the dream to get what you want, and I think that's what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, so there's, as you go, you can learn techniques, you can learn techniques from others. I can say one really quickly. Let's just say I wanted to go into this building that's behind. And I go up to it, I'm lucid, and I'm like, okay, I can't seem to get past this barrier. One technique is you turn away from it and you walk backwards, and you're much more able to go backwards through a wall than forwards. So that's an example of control over the situation. But ultimately, what lucid dreaming teaches about control is what you have control over is your inner state. So whatever's taking place, you have control over this part of yourself. And so from there, you can do a lot. And actually, once you've had enough lucid dreams, that's all it's about, is just controlling the inner part. Because you can try to manipulate something, but it's not always, it's a challenge. Like, it's trying to manipulate something that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, and it becomes the kind of like, it can become what the dream is about. Like, trying to bend reality is what the dream becomes about. While instead you could be interacting with what's there. Just like call in for, just play with the dream on its own terms and see what's there, and then as things happen, because you do get characters and situations you don't want in dreams, trying to still deal with them through curiosity and kindness and compassion and allowing, those are the true tools for control. Yeah, she was saying like how dreams are so much like a mirror. And what's phenomenal about it is also, especially when you get into lucid dreaming, like you're saying, all of the content teaches about the real world when you get into it. Because everything that's happening is what you're dealing with on some level. That's like the dream meets you where you're at. Like whatever's happening in that dream is really like what you're dealing with in some coded, confusing way. And so it is this mirror situation where you see how you deal with the content can teach you lessons that are very relevant in the real world, and particularly your life, because of the mirror aspect, and the content that shows up is kind of what you need to be dealing with right now. So yeah, it's amazing actually when you have like lucid dreams and then you're like, oh, I get how this is really important for me to face in my life, like in my real life. That's one of the beautiful aspects of it. Yes, this person. Yes. I suppose they're different enough that there's not too much overlap. Other than people who have meditative practices, it does tend to have more vivid dream experiences. So they play off of each other. So you can do meditation at 4 or 5 in the morning, and it will increase the likelihood of having a lucid dream when you go back to sleep at that time. So the ability to calm your mind, to be present with your mind, is definitely a skill that is very beneficial to lucid dreaming. Particularly if you're learning specifically how to go from a wake state into a dream. Most people, the more common lucid dream is when you're already in a dream and then you figure it out. And then from there you can do stuff. And you can actually choose to meditate at that time too. That can be a dream goal. And I've heard meditation teachers recommend it. And I've done it. And it's pleasant and empowering and vibrant. So it's an experience you can have. But there's another way to get lucid. And that is you can go from your wake state directly into a REM dream and hold on to your consciousness. The technique is called wild or wake-induced lucid dreaming, which is wild, and it's challenging. I mean, you have to be. I think it suits different people. Like everyone has their own style or thing that they're doing. But I do have a story of that. I have had that experience. It was actually when I was working with Dr. Stephen LaBerge at the Lucidity Institute. And he was still doing research on specific dream supplements that help you get more vivid dreams and the higher increased possibility of lucidity. What happened was, I took one of these supplements at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was in Hawaii in a tent, and I was laying on my stomach and waiting to fall asleep, just laying there. And I noticed that it was a really beautiful view of Hawaii, and I thought it was interesting that I could see everything. I could see Hawaii. And at some point I thought, oh wait, I think I've already slipped. I've actually transitioned into a dream, and I'm laying here on the floor in my dream. And I'm like, there's something on my back, so I can't get up. And so I'm laying there, and this helicopter flies over, and it kind of lands, and it looks like authoritarian. So I think, uh-oh, I think I'm in trouble, because I can't get up, and I don't know who they are. But I'm lucid, so I'm safe. And I use a control technique, my favorite control technique, which I can't believe I haven't mentioned until now, which is called positive center. And this is a technique that you can use when you get lucid and you want a beneficial outcome. So this helicopter lands, and military or police-looking characters come out, and they come towards me. And so I use the positive center technique, and I say, okay, well, I know I'm dreaming, so these characters must be coming to help me. Because it wouldn't make any sense for a dream character to fight me, because they're not going to win. So they're probably here to help me. So they did come up, they lifted the thing off my back, and I got up and I started to go forth in the dream with them. I woke up shortly after that, but that's an example of like, I was laying in my bed, and then something happened, and then I'm laying in a dream, and was able to keep consciousness and lucidity through it. But did I answer the question about the meditation part? Because yeah, I think there's definitely a connection, and like the ability to hold your mind is very much helps. Yes. She's asking about, there's a phenomenon where dream characters can just over time they get a little bit menacing. I've experienced it, even lucidly. Like is your example the lucid dream or? Yeah, I've experienced it. I don't actually know why, and I've heard other people talk about it too. But dream characters can be a little bit stubborn, and sometimes mean, and oftentimes trying to stop you from doing whatever you're doing. Like the unicorn theory dream. Sometimes dream characters are just these characters that are just anti whatever you're doing. And the crazy thing about it is it's another common phenomenon for somebody to get lucid. They turn to whoever's around and be like, hey, you're all lucid too, right? And then they look at me like you are, where it's like, why aren't you guys excited about this? And people are like, and if you ask them like, are you lucid right now? They'll say like, no, anything can happen. So I'm not saying this will happen for one thing, because you can have awesome dream characters that are very encouraging and nice and polite. But it's shocking to become in front of that it's somewhat common for dream characters to say, no, it's not. No, this is real. Kind of like what you would imagine people would actually say. So I think that's part of it. It's like our mind is kind of like, well, people are very, grounded. People try to, like in society, people are trying to get you to go in line and move. So it's that feeling I think comes through with dream characters sometimes. I had a tangent on that, but it's definitely a phenomenon. And a lot of my dreams do end with the dream, like the unicorn theory one, where all of a sudden, like the characters don't want me doing what I'm doing, and yeah, I don't know how to deal with it exactly, but Positive Center does works a lot of the time. Yeah, you in the back.
Have you heard of the different dream yogas, like Tibetan Buddhism, and have you heard about the highest state of enlightenment is this guy, it's really there's a guy who's 30 years old, outside of he experiences full consciousness throughout his whole sleep, there's no consciousness, and he also doesn't dream. So anyway, have you heard anything about that kind of stuff?
Yes, a little bit. I haven't studied it in depth, or I can't speak very well on it, but I do know that this Tibetan dream yoga in particular goes deep into that and a dream practice and trying to get the light in your dream to be bright. So I don't know a lot about it, other than if you're looking at lucid dreaming history, there's not a lot to go on, other than Tibetan dream yoga. They've been writing about it for thousands of years, while other cultures, they have dream temples and stuff sometimes, but lucidity is rarely, I don't know. So it's if you want to get into lucid dream history, that's where you end up for sure.
I think they use lucid dreams to connect with different masters, meet up with their teachers and stuff in the dream space, and it's get downloads. It's all yeah, I was there when that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it ties into the meditation question too. Mental discipline is a big part of that, and removing everything and allowing yourself to have those experiences. It also ties back into something I said earlier on, which is also it reminds me of the dream character thing too. It's tied into it. Dreams are a pure kind of spiritual magic, and with that, it has an enchantment in it, which one phenomenon that happens with people, specifically scientific people or people who live in society, there can be something called the disenchantment of the dream world. And what that is when, let's say if you became lucid now, okay, I'm not dreaming, so but let's just say that if a person gets lucid, I was saying some people say, hey, you're all lucid too. That's one possible thing that people frequently do. The other one is, oh, you all aren't real. And that's a term that would be considered disenchanting, because it cuts you off, And so there is a tendency for people to do disenchantment, especially if they're kind of scientific minded, and it creates dream characters who can be flat or non-cooperative. But on the other side of it is enchantment, and that's where you get into spiritual teachings. And if you have a teacher who says, "Come find me in the dream world," that's magic, that's enchantment. And if you can believe that and accept that and say, "Yes, anything is possible. I can have these experiences, and there's magic in the dream world," that's enchantment. And allowing that and saying yes to that makes it possible in your dreams and in your life in general too. As long as you don't take it too far. Yeah, I like it. She was just sharing a dream that she had where she came upon another person and she said, "I'm dreaming," and then the other person said, "I'm dreaming too." So it sounds like you have some enchantment in your life. Yeah, I like it. I had an experience like that too, and in the dream, the person had a symbol on their arm, and while recalling the dream, so in the dream, it was a little vague about what it was, but they were dreaming too, and so when I woke up, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if everyone who wants to play the game has a symbol on? They can wear the symbol or not, it doesn't matter, but if you knew someone was playing the game and you met them in the dream, you could actually have an experience like the one you talked about. And I thought about it more, and I thought, what if anybody who's playing that game has a dream password, which is a word that they're not supposed to say when they're awake, but can say when you're in a dream. And so if you ran into somebody, you could tell them your password, and they could tell you their password, and at that point you'd wake up and recall it, and then check in with the person. So that's like, I think that's where that leads to, is like, how do we prove these shared dream experiences? And I played with that idea for a while, and I'm a web developer, so I was like, I should build a website, and we can have all these people register their dream passwords on an encrypted database, where I won't even know what they are. And you could type in someone's dream password, and it would compare it to the encryption, and if it matched, then you could have a hit. And so all of that is like fascinating, beautiful, and fun, and amazing, but it takes a lot of energy to do that. And so, and also, lucid dreaming is relatively rare. It's a beautiful, precious state, and if an advanced lucid dreamer is somebody who's doing it once a month, and you add the fact that the dream has its own personality, it has its own agenda, the frequency of doing that in that situation becomes lower and lower. And so ultimately I let it go. I thought, well, you know, I can barely do it. For a while, my dream goal was to just find a dream character and then ask them a quote, like a dream quote, and then wake up and recall it. That was my goal for a while, and I was not very successful. And then when I was successful, they were a little bit bland of a quote, like not quote worthy. So it's amazing to think about these things, and ultimately, if somebody had funding for that, we could actually have these like a shared dreaming experiment, like a really big one, and then really gather some data on it. But it's just really challenging to muster up all that energy to do it. But I like your dream characters. Okay, yes, I see. He went into a little bit more depth, for those who couldn't hear, about a specific guru who has an experience of like consciousness through waking life and through dreams that is kind of like more consistent level, and not like, I know in Tibetan Buddhism is like, don't play in the illusion. There's like a term for that, like I forgot what it is, but what? Maya. Yeah. Maya. So it's like. Okay. But ultimately, like that, you know, if it's an illusion, then don't play in that realm. So that I've heard them. It's a little disenchanting too, but ultimately, if that's a path, like I think it's beautiful and amazing to hear about. Oh, yes. It does touch on another topic, which is, if you were to like graph your brain's activity, it's going to be like kind of like this, and it's going to go up and down. Sometimes you feel like you're sharp and you're on top of things, and other times you're kind of like relaxed and there's less going on. And that tends to happen in people's dreams too. So, you know, sometimes we're on it, and other times we're just kind of like going with the flow and like allowing that to be kind of the situation, you know. And it's just an aspect of it to acknowledge. And you know, one beautiful thing about life is to be able to go with the flow, and when the time comes for something to end, you allow it to end gracefully.
Take a second for us to give a big round of applause and thank you to Beholder Sphere talking to us about lucid dreaming today. It's very informative. Thank you so much. Any additional questions and just like carried on conversations, we can continue chatting them up over here in the back of the summit. And I just want to invite you guys to circle back with us at 12:15. We're going to be talking about Blueprint for a New Earth, Biological Governance, with Dr. Vanita Gupta. So go grab some lunch, chat with Beholder if you'd like. Circle back at 12:15. We've got a lot more great content this weekend at the summit. Thank you so much.